Thank you, everybody, once again for joining us for the Skore user drop-in sessions on a Friday morning. This week, I'm very excited to have with us Daniel Lawrence from Lawrence and Wedlock. I'll let Daniel do a quick introduction to himself and Lawrence and Wedlock, and then take us through. He's going to tell us a little bit about process discovery and robotic process automation. So we've certainly been very excited about that. So Daniel, I'll hand over to you. Obviously, when you need to or want to share your screen, go ahead.
So thanks, Chris and Craig and team at Skore for inviting me to present today. It was actually 30th of July 2019 when I last presented at one of these events. Back then, I talked about how we used to capture processes for automation using what we called, I guess, a smorgasbord of different applications, and how when we implemented Skore, we were able to ditch them all in half the time it took us. So given how long it's been since I last presented at one of these events, I was either incredibly bad the last time, or I've done something spectacularly right since then, or you've just forgotten. But all the same, thanks for inviting me back today. So I would normally give the opportunity to talk here today to one of the bright young things in our company as well, but unfortunately they're all either busy working hard on projects or on holiday. So I'm afraid you'll have to make do with me for the next 30 minutes or less. So I'll start off with, if I was to give you all the choice today between me starting off by telling you all about Lawrence and Wedlock, our spectacular solutions, world-class service, how unique we are and what an amazing company we are, blah, blah. Or just getting to the point and sharing with you all how and why we utilize Skore, I'm sure you probably all opt for the second one. And I don't say I blame you. So I'm not going to do the first part because I just did, but I'm going to tell you just enough about what we do so that you have some context for the reasons we use Skore and how we use it. So let's get started. In a nutshell, we build the automated enterprise, and we do this by first understanding everyday business problems and pain points that our customers face, which we can ultimately trace back to cost, time, and quality, and back to being able to effectively operate and profitably operate in a controlled manner with satisfied customers and enough agility and resilience to weather threats like COVID and to manage growth. And so we build, everyday robotic solutions to help manage simple tasks, end-to-end processes, and more cognitive activities that involve more complex data and interactions. And those help overcome those everyday challenges. So in a nutshell, and again, by building the automated enterprise or automated workforce, that's how we solve those pain points and problems. And this is where Skore comes into it, because to build the automated enterprise, we first need to understand the unautomated enterprise. We need to understand how organization is structured, what technologies are in use, what processes are performed by who, how long it takes them, how many errors they make, and the time they spend reworking and correcting those, all in the provision of a service to their customers. And this is where we find that Skore is in a class of its own. So we use Skore to manage 4 vital parts of the operation in which it supports our automation lifecycle. And those are the discovery, definition, design, and solution architecture. So many of you may already be fairly familiar with process discovery and how to use Skore for this. Ultimately, for us, it's a very collaborative exercise and one of the first real opportunities for us to properly engage with our clients. And that is almost as powerful as the output we get from it, which in our case is focused on the creation of a broad but fairly insightful map of the client's world of work, which has all the major pain points. It has a high-level activity analysis of where people spend most of their time on the areas with the most automation potential. And that becomes a blueprint, which is referred to time and again as the client's automation program matures. So this is the type of thing that we end up creating and building in Skore from those various sort of discovery and walkthrough sessions that we hold with people in the organizations and within specific processes. And that map then, as I said, that serves as that blueprint that we dip into and help us prioritize where we start and where we progress as the program starts to scale and industrialize. Now, once we've selected a particular process with the client for automation, that's when the real work begins. And I would estimate that the define design phase probably takes up as much as 50%, maybe even as much as 70% of the total time it takes to automate a process, which on average is about 2 weeks. It could be longer, depends on how complex the process is and how ambitious the automation needs to be. So whether it's cognitive or simple task-based. We always begin with defining the as-is process activities from the very highest end-to-end level down to the lowest level of detail. We use Skore to define and select the process steps and the automation scope and keep going lower and lower and lower until we have every keystroke and screenshot captured. We use the attachments and the custom fields for each step to record major and key design principles, business and system exceptions, handoff points with humans and human in the loop, and various things and information about systems and process about the system we use, accesses and permissions to get into. We use what boxes to capture the details of what and why is happening at each step. So we end up building up a complete and very detailed picture of the process. Once that's completed, we review these with the process performers, make updates as necessary, and then get the all-important sign-off using the Skore publish feature. And at that point, the business then has really taken ownership for the processes or tasks that they're going to ask us and hand over to us to work on automating. So next, from the as-is comes the to-be process design. And this is still a very recognizable design from a business user perspective. We do deliberately design how the automated process will look and feel different than currently when it's being done manually. We usually do resequence many steps. We remove some and eliminate some. We add one or two that are necessary for robotic operation. And the reason for that is robots function very differently to people. Even though it performs the very same tasks, we refer to that as changing everything whilst changing nothing. So a robot can log into multiple systems, access multiple screens, and retain vast amounts of data all in just a few seconds or less. So it makes sense that we typically optimize and redesign the process at the same time as that we're designing it for automation. And that is one of the main reasons we don't promote a sort of standalone optimization phase before automating. But I'm sure we can probably talk about that more when we get to the Q&A. So in the design phase, we also make a point of producing the change management plan so that so it's very clear for the business users and other stakeholders involved exactly what people will need to stop, start, and continue doing differently once the automated process goes live. Because that, probably from experience, I find that if anything's going to go wrong, it's at that stage where a process is running via a robot and people forget what they need to be doing differently. They interfere with the robot, they stop it from running, or they mess around with the data that it's using. So we do go quite in, and when we use Skore effectively well to dig into that change management and produce a map of the things that are going to be different and going to look and feel differently for the users in a real world. We also cover the robot testing scenarios and plans at that stage too, because the users now have a very clear understanding of the workflows and sequences and the outcomes that the process needs to generate from the Skore designs. And again, we review those designs with the process performers, we make updates, and we get their sign off. Everything remains in Skore. We don't have any printing, we don't have any other systems that we use to share the designs, which I'm afraid is still quite typical in automation programs everywhere else. We've been quite lucky, I guess, in finding Skore, and we've been able to overcome and optimize our own process. So that's good. Some of our clients actually like to be more involved in the development of the as-is and to-be diagrams as well. And we've come up with a training academy program so they can learn how to become more proficient, not only with Skore, but the methodologies that we use to create those as-is and to-be designs. Now, the next phase in the journey of the automation lifecycle for us is the robot solution architecture or solution design, which we also do in Skore. Now, it's a very uniquely technical set of diagrams and designs, mostly very much unrecognizable to a business user. They generally can't reconcile this design to what they've been involved in the previous steps. It's a very technical set of architecture designs based on how the robot will be expected to operate, but also depending on the type of automation that we need to build, which will obviously vary depending on the process and the activities. And it's very much the realm of our robot developers and solution architects. They're somewhat a unique breed that talk an entirely different language and move at a different beat. So we use our BAs as sort of the interface really between that very technical part of the world and the business world, and connect the two up so that the two can understand what's going on. Again, we use the attachments and the custom fields in Skore against each of these different steps. We capture all of the technical specifications that we need to build a robot. Things like the process variables, the different arguments, reusable elements, all the various coded actions and workflows, and it's all captured in Skore. Nothing's left or missed. And Skore's made that process incredibly reliable for us and robust, but it's also enabled us to standardize the solution design process throughout our business and throughout our automation lifecycle for all of our clients. And that is at that point, really, we're sort of 70%, as I say, done on what we need to do to deliver an actual automated process. So a lot of the work that we do all starts and the majority gets done in Skore. This solution design that you see here, these designs are then peer reviewed within the team to ensure that they're complete and correct. And we can follow the logic through very easily here with all the rules and variables included. It's very easy to see if we've missed something or omitted anything, but also to test the logic. We can do that in these Skore diagrams too. And at that point, once that is peer reviewed and signed off within the team, we're ready to transfer that over to a solution design package to start finalizing and then running the various test protocols and diagnosis to make sure that it works. We're currently working on developing an automated transfer for this so that we can save even more time. And we're looking at how we can take those solution designs directly into a number of different platforms, or almost any agnostic really to any design or any robotic automation platform that you would want to use for it. So we're really keen to do that, because effectively once we've started and finished this, we need to almost restart the procedure in the automation programs that we use. So that's something that we're really keen to get up and running. So some of our clients have pretty strict policies and procedures for information security across their processes. And we found that having such comprehensive diagrams in Skore for our automations has been not only enough to satisfy the toughest requirements that we've come across yet, but it's also helped us overcome some of the obstacles for digital transformation, which we've all pretty much seen accelerated over the past 15 months. One of the major reluctances that we hear a lot about digital transformation is the multiple systems involved and the process complexities. And what we find is getting a bunch of folks on a call, going through their world using Skore. It's a great way to combat that, because the complex suddenly becomes much less so once it's written in black and white on the screen in front of them. So we find it very useful to overcome those things as well. And that in itself leads to finding more opportunities for automation within their end-to-end processes and then unique areas of pain point as well. So I think I know it's been, maybe I've been going a bit too quick. Maybe I didn't write enough. But unless you want me to go back over how amazing and wonderful Lawrence and Wedlock are, that pretty much concludes my talking part of the presentation for today and leaves plenty of time for questions and discussions, or extra toilet break, an extra tea, coffee. So with that, I'll hand back to Chris, Craig and the team and open the floor for questions.
Brilliant, Daniel. Thank you very much.
Sorry, it's so quick.
No, that's perfect. Perfect. As you said, there was plenty of time for questions there. I thought it was you've certainly, since I last saw your presentation, which I didn't realise was 2 years ago.
I know.
But I can see how you've really built on and developed a lot of what you do, and have really sort of taken it to the next level, which is fantastic to see. Yeah. I also really loved there was a phrase that you used early on, which I wrote down here, which was you talked about the unautomated enterprise. And I think that's a fascinating thing, because that's probably one of the bigger parts of the enterprise in terms of looking at processes. So that's one that rang with me. So let's open the floor. Has anyone got any questions immediately for Daniel?
Daniel, so it's Alistair here from CTMS. I'm interested in the way that last solution design slide that you had. You obviously had lots of XAML files there referenced.
Yeah.
Are those just references to configuration files which you're obviously then going to use in the actual application you're deploying? Do you actually put the code behind that into those Skore blocks as well as into a questionnaire?
Yeah, we've got a few approaches we use. Sometimes we do put the whole coding back there. We use XAMLs, we have JSONs, we have a number of things. And sometimes if we've got APIs, we include a lot of the information specific to the API that's going to go into the robot as well. And what we're effectively trying to get to the part or the place of is where everything that we need is in Skore. And it's going to be a case of then just running a robot or an automation to put it into whichever automation package we happen to be using. And we use 3 or 4 different ones. They're all slightly different. They all basically work on .NET. And some use slightly different coding language than others, but ultimately the way that what we build in Skore is basically a mirror image of exactly what we're going to put into the robotic automation program, just structured slightly differently. So we take a number of different approaches, and we're definitely moving more to everything being in Skore, because it's a more collaborative and easier way for us to do that and achieve that outcome than trying to work in different automation platforms that we might have access to, but we need to have different licenses, and there's a whole number of different complications that arise then with that. So it's a much simpler way to do it in Skore.
Excellent.